Hey guys, Rich Lopez with the Drop Time Traditions podcast. Another episode, and it'll probably be episode I think 171. Don't quote me on that, but we're chugging along here. My guest tonight is Mr. Peter Iacavazzi from Montana. How you doing, Pete? Can I call you Pete or
I'm doing
Peter?
great, Rich. Barry Wenzel calls me Pete. Gene calls me Peter. So either
Okay,
one works.
that's fine. Uh, I understand. That's a beautiful Catholic name from New Jersey. Because in New
Absolutely.
Jersey, you're either Peter, you're Paul, you know, uh,
Or Michael. Peter,
or
Paul, or
Michael.
Michael.
Right? Yeah, it's a Jersey thing, and New York as well. But at any rate, before we get into the meat and potatoes, I want to recognize the show sponsors, the people that have been supporting me all these years. Heck, we're going on three now. I want to recognize Stickbow Country Custom Arrows, Traps Feather Rest, Daryl Damron, the best feather rest in the business. Traditional Bowhunter magazine, they've been supporting me for as long as they've been around. Sauk Trail Archery, stickbowsupplies.com. Whiskey City Trad Gear, wctrad.com. Hey, David, staunch supporter. Jessie Savage Blacksmith.com. I'm into forge stuff, so this guy's great. Check him out, folks. Traditionaljunk.com. St. Joe River Bow Company. Hey, Courtney. Hey, Austin. Theethicalpredator.com and stickbowhuntsmx.com. And folks, Professional Bowhunter Society, Compton's Traditional Bowhunters. If you're not a member, check them out. I support them 110%. They have great programs. They're great organizations, and they really are the backbone of this traditional community. So, Peter, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Rich.
Well, folks, so you know I'm a fanboy of Peter's, even though I'm older. Uh, I remember seeing him in Bowhunter magazine years ago. It was an article that I think you wrote, and Wenzel's Barry and Gene, or Gene and Barry, whatever. They're twins, so it doesn't matter who goes first. Uh, I've known them since I was 18. I went to see them at Ramapo College in New Jersey, and they were giving a presentation. Um, and I just was hooked. And that's when I think Gene had written his book then. It was 81, Bow Hunting,
Mhm.
Running Whitetails. And folks, I almost got married to this girl, and I dumped her to go see Gene and Barry because she wouldn't let me go. And then as I was talking to them, you know, things, life changes, and you go into a friendship and then beyond. And then later on, your name came up in conversations. And I was like, I started seeing pictures of you when online became online. I was like, man, this guy's
Mhm.
killing some killer animals. And I got to check this guy out. So if you would, Peter, can you just give us a brief bio, born, raised, etc.?
Sure. So I was born and raised just outside. I was born in Princeton, New Jersey. And I grew up in a little suburb of Princeton, a little town called Belmead, kind of a stone's throw from Princeton and Princeton University. My father according to Gene, was a living legend in Princeton football. He was a three-time All-American. He was the captain of the Princeton University 1964's undefeated Ivy League championship team. He led the nation in scoring in 64. He was a Heisman Trophy nominee. He was a first round draft for the New York Jets.
Wow.
So needless to say, I was an Italian Catholic kid that grew up in Princeton, New Jersey, in the shadow of a very large father.
Yeah, that's a massive. And you also have an athletic background as well. I know you from wrestling.
Yes. So as a kid growing up, I wrestled and I played football. My mother and father probably would have wanted me to play football more, but of the two boys in the family, I'm the smallest. I'm only 5'9". My brother's 6 foot. My dad's 6 foot. They're both big, stocky Italian guys. They were more built for football. I think I was more built for wrestling.
Hmm.
So I wrestled and played football. Of the two, I liked wrestling a lot more. I enjoyed more of that one-on-one concept of sports. But I did play both, but I think I played football more so because it was just in my blood, according to my father.
Yeah. Now, when you wrestled, what was your weight class, or what was your favorite weight class?
My favorite weight class at the time was 158, which
Okay.
is no longer a high school weight class. Weight classes have changed. They've kind of vacillated over the years. But I was, like I said, in high school, I was 5'9", 170 pounds. So I was
Right.
like kind of a natural 158er.
When I wrestled in high school, and I'm from Bergen County, New Jersey,
Mhm.
for those that need to know, I wrestled heavyweight. I was a obese. I was a fat slob. Okay. I was like 275, 275. And then I got involved in, believe it or not, of all things, silva mind control and meditation around
Mhm.
my sophomore year. And I started taking more, paying more attention to my body and paying more attention to my food, my intake, all that. And I got down to about 195, and I was becoming more and more successful the more weight I lost because I had more speed. And then I got to around 177. I was at my apex. I was an apex predator at 177. And that was God, the mid 70s.
Mhm.
And I think in the mid 70s, you were just a kid.
I was just a kid in the mid 70s. I'm not as young as I tell people, but I was still just a kid.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a 6 year span between you and I'm the older gentleman
Yes.
here. Yeah,
Well, I
and
don't know. I'm still 39, so then that would
right,
that would put you around 45.
right. Not knock yourself out, brother. I'm 45 all day long. And actually, I've had women come up to me and ask me, um, how old are you? I was like, really? And I tell them, I say I'm 60, I'm going to be 66. And they don't believe it. But if I take this hat off, you'll understand. I do have hair, but not much of it. At any rate, so how were you introduced to hunting?
So, I was introduced to hunting in a very strange way. Growing up in the little town of Belmead, back then it was very rural. A lot of farms in the area. It wasn't near as built up as it is now, like everywhere else in New Jersey.
Right.
And I worked on a dairy farm. Like most kids, I had a cash job, so I got paid $3 an hour to basically bale hay, clean stalls, and do whatever the dairy farmer told me to do. And one day I walked into the barn and there was a doe hanging from the rafters with a perfect bear razor head X right through the center of the shoulder. And I'd never seen a dead deer and I had no idea how it was dead. And of course, the guy that shot it had dressed it out and it was hanging and cooling in the rafters. And I was just mesmerized by it. I was fascinated by it. Well, come to find out that the dairy farmer let the guy down the road, kind of an old duffer. He let him hunt deer with a little bear recurve and a little bear razor head. And to the best of my knowledge, I think that might have been the only deer he ever killed, but it was one more deer than I had ever killed. And I was looking at it, and then this old duffer came in, and he could tell I was fascinated by it. So he relived the entire hunt for me in story, and I just was mesmerized by it. I'd never imagined you could do something like that. So I asked the dairy farmer. I said, "Hey, do you think I could ever shoot a deer on your farm?" He said, "Sure." He said, "You're welcome to hunt here whenever you want." So then I thought, okay, what am I supposed to do? And he said, well, first of all, you're going to have to get a bow, and then you're going to have to take bow hunter safety, and then you're going to have to figure out how to hunt. And I said, can you help me? He said, I'm not really much of a deer hunter, so I wish I could, but I don't know much about it. So then began the era of trial and error. I took my hunter safety like every other kid in Jersey. I learned as much as I could from the instructor, which was not very much. It was basically how not to shoot yourself. And went out and bought a little bow, and I got a hunting license. And I asked the farmer, I said, well, what do I do now? And he said, well, what a lot of guys do is they go on the edge of the field and they climb up in a tree and they just look wherever there's the most deer tracks. And you sit there, and when a deer walks by, you just shoot it. And I thought, well, that seems pretty easy. I could probably do that. Well, the first year I sat in a lot of trees and no deer walked by because I didn't understand back then. You kind of had to wear
Yeah.
camouflage. You kind of had to know about the wind and thermals. I just thought it was as easy as we just sit there and eventually they'll come out. Well, they didn't. And then the following year, I got lucky. I had the only deer on the entire farm that clearly wanted to commit suicide. So this little 5 point buck managed to walk underneath me, And I wish I could tell you, I remember pulling back, settling into anchor, picking a spot, doing all the things that Joel Turner teaches me now, and shooting the perfect arrow. I don't remember a thing. I remember seeing Brown, pulling back my bow, and the next thing I know, he was running off, and I think or thought I had shot a deer. And I did. And then I found him. And then, like probably everybody else listening, I was hooked. From that moment on, it was the greatest feeling I'd ever felt in my life. You know, that bow hunter's high. And like everybody else listening, I've been chasing that high my whole life.
It's a primal feeling because I
Yeah,
know when I shot my first one. I don't know if you listened to any of my podcasts,
I
but
have.
when I was a kid, I took the hunter safety course at Luciano's Sport Shop in Saddle River, New Jersey. I still have my hunter safety card from 1974,
Mhm.
and I remember my brother-in-law taking me out, but I knew I was prepping because I knew he was taking me out on Saturday. I had to be up at 4 a.m. and we were going to Sussex County, and that's
Oh,
where
yeah.
he hunted. And I wore my dad's Vietnam tiger camo from all that, which was way big for me, and his army boots, and I had a boonie hat that he wore in Vietnam, and I took shoe polish and put camo on my face, which took me, by the way, folks, 3 hours to get off with my mother's cold cream. And I went to the library and made Xerox copies on how to gut a deer. But it took me 7 years to kill my first deer. But I used
Well,
those Xerox copies, came in handy.
well, you're God bless you, buddy, because that is the definition of persistence.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that. Yeah, my wife says I'm what does she say? I'm mentally challenged in that when I focus on something, I don't let go. I'm like a Rottweiler. When I bite down on it, I'm not letting go.
There
So
you
here
go.
I am
Well,
almost 50 years later. Well, no, I'm
mhm.
in my 54th year of bow hunting.
That's
So
awesome. That's awesome.
yeah. So
That is true.
so what's your present occupation? I know you're very involved in security issues, securities and stuff like that.
So, for most of my adult life, well, I should say for about the last 25 years, I was a government contractor. I was primarily specialized in teaching military combatives and law enforcement defensive tactics. I had some government contracts. I worked with some special mission units, some incredibly talented, brave, phenomenal men. I had the pleasure and privilege of training them in combatives and hand-to-hand combat. I branched out to work with law enforcement. I've worked with a lot of agencies, both federal, state, and local, on what law enforcement would call defensive tactics. Military calls it combatives. They're both just fancy words for close quarter combat or hand to hand combat.
Mhm.
So that's what I've done for about the last 20, 25 years. I've also traveled around the world competing on the world stage in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And then through that, I teach a lot of Jiu Jitsu seminars. I created a women's self defense program called A Fighting Chance. And I've taught that in several countries, most every state here in the United States. So, most of my professional life has been standing on a mat, either teaching soldiers, police officers, jujitsu students, or women how to be better at the things that I hope that I can make them better at.
Well, thank you for your service in
You're,
that regard.
you're very welcome.
My youngest son, I have five kids and four boys and a daughter.
Wow,
My youngest son Jake is into Muay Thai.
great. I love Muay Thai. Love Muay Thai.
Yeah, and it's when he first started. When I first he started going to learning. Started out with Taekwondo, but
Mhm.
everything was a kata. So I would make fun of it. So he'd be a kid. I'd come up and jump on him. I go, "Come on, kata 67, let's go!" And he thought that was hilarious. Just messing around with that. And I introduced him to Bruce Lee and explained Jeet Kune Do and all that
Mhm.
stuff. I dabbled in it a little bit back in the
Mhm.
day. Um, but I have such a respect for the martial arts.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
I'm kind of obsessed with it a little bit, like to the point where I'm watching a match on TV or something like that, and I'm explaining to my wife, and she's like, she wants to open a vein because she doesn't understand what the heck I'm talking about. And
Well, it's
but
funny you should say that about Jeet Kune Do. When I lived in the 90s, I lived in Hermosa Beach.
Mhm.
And I had the privilege of training with Guru Danny Inosanto, who
Mhm.
was a direct student of
Oh
Bruce Lee's.
yeah, absolutely.
And the reason I was able to do that is because I was friends with a fantastic MMA fighter, a guy by the name of Eric Paulson. And way back in the day when the UFC was in its infancy stage, Eric Paulson was one of the pioneers who fought in a lot of the early on UFCs. He was a really good shoot fighter. He fought in Japan quite a bit. Really talented guy. And we were just friends because we lived in the same neighborhood. We knew a lot of the same people. And Eric used to have a little gym in his garage, just a couple mats and some bags. And on weekends, he would just get together with anybody that wanted to train. And we'd go over there and train. And mostly he just beat me up. But it was really fun because he taught me some cool stuff. And then a few times he brought me to his academy
Yep.
to train with Guru Danny Inosanto. And, what a remarkable guy he was. I mean, he was a direct lineage of Bruce Lee. He was incredibly talented. He was personable. He had that spirit of Bruce Lee, I like to say. And it's funny, looking back all those years ago, I didn't realize then that I was sharing time on the mat with men that would ultimately become living legends.
Absolutely.
Um, and it was great. One of the greatest times of my life. I used to get really mad because they would beat me up all the time. But now I can say I got beat up by Danny Inosanto and Eric Paulson. So now it's
That's
not so
yeah.
bad.
That's a privilege and an honor, man. So to the listeners, Danny Inosanto, for those that do not know, the younger folks, he was legend. I mean, back into the late 60s, the 70s, into the
Yes.
80s, up until his untimely death. Uh he was like you said, the guru, Danny Inosanto. Um, he was like an idol of mine. Yeah, just because I get martial arts magazine, black belt, all those, and
Mhm.
I was absorbed into that stuff. And Bruce Lee was the guy, my guy. He was my guy. Um, who's was it? Bob Walton?
Bob Wall.
Walt, yeah, another guy.
Bob Wall. WAHL. He was back in the 70s, back in the Chuck Norris era.
Yeah,
He was one of the greatest kickboxers, karate kickboxers that ever lived.
yeah. Most of these guys appeared in Enter the Dragon. So young
Yep.
people, please
Mhm.
go on YouTube and just watch Enter the Dragon. You will see all of these legends.
Yep.
Uh,
You bet.
Yeah, man, this is awesome. I'm getting the sweats talking about this stuff. But
You're ready to go put your gi on and start fighting the neighbors.
I don't know about that. Yeah, my neighbors are so stoned, I don't think they can fight. I'm in Florida, man. Everybody's smoking. So except me. So how old let's backpedal a little bit. Let's go back in time again. How old were you when you decided to move to Montana from New Jersey, of all
So
places?
my story of moving to Montana, New Jersey is one that so many people seem to really love because it's just bizarre how it all happened. Just like you, as I was learning to bow hunt, the only knowledge there was no traditional bow hunter magazine. There wasn't any bow hunter magazine. You had Field and Stream, Sports Afield, and Outdoor Life.
Right.
And there just wasn't a lot of articles about bow hunting. It was really still more geared towards rifles and shotguns.
Right.
And I picked up a copy of Hunting Rutting Whitetails by Gene Wenzel in 1982 in the Sportsman Center on Route 130 in Bordentown, New Jersey. And
I,
for all your Jersey listeners, they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about.
I remember that place.
Yeah. So I took the book home and I bought the book because on the cover was supposedly Gene dragging out a big 4x4. In the photograph, it's actually Barry, but it's a buck that Gene shot. And I bought it without even opening up the pages because I'd never seen a deer that big in my life. And I
Right.
thought, I got to buy this book just so I can look at that cover. So I took it home and I read it cover to cover. And then I read it cover to cover again. And I became obsessed with trying to kill big whitetails with a recurve bow, because that's how Gene Wenzel and Barry Wenzel were doing it.
Right.
And I've told this before, but I guess it warrants repeating because people seem to really enjoy this. On the back page, and I can say it now because Gene doesn't live there anymore. It literally said, "For additional copies, contact the author at Post Office Box 62, Hamilton, Montana 59840." And then Gene put his phone number there, 406-363-5090. I cannot remember what I had for breakfast, but I, for some reason, can't forget that. So I literally reached out. I called Gene Wenzel on the phone to order another copy. And Gene, being Gene, he said, "Who is this?" And I said, "It's me. It's Pete Iacavazzi from New Jersey." And you know, as if Gene would know me. And he said, "Pete Iacca who?" And I said, "Pete Iacavazzi from New Jersey."
That's Gene. Pete Iacca who?
And you know, so we ended up talking for about, you know, Gene saying, "What do you want? Why are you calling me?" And I said, "Hey, listen, I read your book and I want to buy another copy." So long story short, that 15-minute phone call planted a seed for what has become a lifetime friendship. And here's where the story gets very funny. Gene probably tells it better than me. After several years of just being pen pals, talking on the phone, exchanging letters, Christmas cards, one day Gene made the mistake of saying, hey, if you ever make it out to Montana, I'd love for you to stop by, you know, and have a beer. I'd love to meet you. Well, I took that as oh, Gene wants me to come see him in Montana. So Memorial Day weekend of 1985, I convinced there it is, hunting running whitetails, Barry dragging out a big one. So I convinced my dad to buy me a plane ticket to go to Missoula, Montana, Memorial Day week in 85. I hopped on a plane, and a few days earlier I called Gene and told him I was on my way out. And to Gene's credit, he realized, geez, this dumb kid from Jersey just bought a plane ticket. He's coming out to see me. And I think Gene realized, well, I can't just leave the kid standing in the airport. So Gene and his wife Donna, his son Kenny, his daughter Amy, and they literally met me at the airport, drove me to Gene's house. That day, I spent 5 of the greatest days of my life in Montana with Gene Wenzel as my personal Montana tour guide. And I fell in love with Montana. I met Paul Schaefer. I met Barry Wenzel. I met Paul Brunner. And I remember when I got back on the plane, all I could think of in my young boy mind was, how can I devise a plan so that my mom and dad will let me live in Montana for the rest of my life instead of going to Princeton University.
How old were you?
I was a teenager. So I would have been 19, 18 or 19.
Yeah, that's
just a kid, just right out of high school, trying to figure out my next
you couldn't do that
life.
today. I mean, today.
No, God,
no, heck no. But yeah, I mean, so you and I are 6 years apart, and at that time, I was actually married to my first wife, and
wow.
trying to devise a plan for us to move to Montana, and she wouldn't have it. I mean, nope. So here I am on my second wife of almost 40 years, and it's all good. Everything's good. You know, you see behind, I have all this. So she's all like, "Rich, whatever you need to do." So I'm just gonna
that decision to go to college in Montana instead of going to college in New Jersey did cost me my high school girlfriend, who was wonderful and beautiful. And you know, I had to choose: live in Montana and bow hunt and hang out with Gene and Barry and Shafe, or stay in New Jersey and continue dating the prettiest girl in my high school. So bow hunting won out.
Yep, it has won out for me too, brother. It's my life. I live and breathe it every day. I'm an insurance adjuster, but there's not a minute that goes by that somebody's not sending me an instant message about bow hunting or archery history, which, because that, I think you probably know I'm a bit of a historian.
I do. I've been doing a little research, and I'm impressed by the only other person that I personally know that probably knows as much about you as the history of archery would be two people. Would be Gene Wenzel, of course, and there's a young guy that lives here, just up the road here in Montana. Phenomenal young guy named Tyler Carlson.
Oh, I know
He does.
Tyler.
Yep. So, and Tyler is, when it comes to bow hunting knowledge, especially the history of Montana bow hunters, he's like Google. He's like a chat GPT. He
Yep.
knows more about the history of Montana bow hunting than any 10 guys I know.
Yep. I mean, it's crazy. Montana per capita holds the most, I guess, influential bow hunters
Yes.
in the United States, next to Michigan.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, and you're absolutely right. I mean, when you go through the who's who of influential bow hunters, um, the majority of them either live in Montana or at one time have lived in Montana, or literally created their legend in Montana.
Right. And as a young man, I remember actually corresponding with Jay Massey, the late Jay Massey.
Oh, what a phenomenal man! What a phenomenal man!
Yeah, and we became fast friends. And actually, my first wife and I were instrumental in helping him and his wife at the time adopt their daughter.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
Yeah, my daughter is adopted.
Okay.
Yeah, because endometriosis and things of that nature. And then, of course, we had a son. That happened. You know, it usually happens. It's just weird. But yeah.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot.
Yep. And that's my son who's into Muay Thai.
Cool.
So, you know, Jay reached out to me after I met him physically at a banquet in Maryland. And I told him the story and all that. And he and his wife at the time reached out to my wife and I, and we helped them along with the process of adoption. And
that's great.
It was great stuff. God, R.I.P. brother. We're talking about you.
I had a quick Jay Massey story.
Sure.
I had known about Jay Massey and Doug Borland through Gene and Barry and Paul Brunner and Paul Schaefer. It was in the spring of either 1986 or 87. Paul Brunner at the time lived at Buffalo Trail Ranch in Ovando, and every year he'd have like a wild game weekend. He'd invite out just his buddies. We'd go stump shooting. We'd walk for horns, and then he would make an incredible wild game feast. And one year I was out there, and you talk about a who's who guest list, excluding me, who was just a kid from University of Montana. Here was the guest list at this particular weekend: Gene Wenzel, Barry Wenzel, Rosie Roseland, Paul Schaefer, Jay Massey, Doug Borland, Dick Robertson, and me. So I was the only person in the room that didn't belong in the room. And I had a chance to really spend time with Jay Massey. Really, because I was just a kid, and I got a chance to talk with him and stump shoot with him. We walked for the whole day looking for horns, and at the risk of sounding romantic, genuinely one of the most beautiful men I've ever met in my life. I mean, you talk about a guy that just absolutely loves the great outdoors, loves the sport of bow hunting, probably had unreproachable ethics, and genuinely just the kindest, sweetest, most beautiful man. And he was more interested that weekend in learning about me than he was about talking to himself. And what I remember most of that weekend was when he left, he made it a point to say to me, "Peter, please come to Alaska. And anytime you want to come, you have a place to stay, you have someone to come hunting with. I would love nothing better than for you to come spend time with me."
Absolutely.
And this was a guy that, Jay Massey.
Yeah.
That's Jay Massey.
Absolutely selfless, told me the same thing. And right before he passed, about 5 months before he passed, I was getting ready to get to the Moose Jaw with him. And then he got sick, and the rest is history. So Jay's all around me. I feel him every day. He's in my shop. He's in my man cave, as you see behind me. I've got stuff around here. I've got pictures of him everywhere. I've got Gene and Barry over to my left. Uh, yeah, I'm not going to take the camera off, but people know. Uh,
I I usually have Gene every couple of nights at the table I'm sitting at, eating steak and drinking
oh,
good wine, and then sitting by my fire pit smoking cigars. And I couldn't ask for a better best friend.
that's awesome. Now, he and I have been talking. He's been fasting lately.
Yeah.
He's lost so much weight. Is what? Talk to us about fasting since you're into being healthy. What does that do?
There's a lot. There's a lot out there about fasting. I think most of it is good. Um, when when you fast, some people fast for like 24 hours for religious
Right,
beliefs.
right.
Other people will fast for. They say the optimal fast is about 3 days,
Okay.
because as your cells begin to regenerate and actually start to fight against free radicals in your body on about the end of the second day. And it depends on the type of fast you do. Gene likes to do what's called you do the first day, you do bone broth and water. The second day is just water. The third day is just water. Most people will do a 3 day fast. And for anybody who's ever done it or thinking about doing it, the worst day is the first day. The second and third is actually relatively easy. Um, you will lose weight. You will feel better. Most of the weight you lose is primarily water weight. So you're not doing it to lose a lot of weight. You're
No,
doing it because studies have shown that by fasting for 72 hours or more, you begin to regenerate cellular growth in your body. And that regeneration of cellular growth also helps to purge your body of free radicals. And Gene's become a very big fan of it. And I do it about every 3 or 4 months. Gene just finished like a 5 day
I
fast.
know. Yeah, he
He's
sent me an
amazing.
email. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I saw him a couple of months ago, I hung out with them for the Hall of Fame inductions at the
Mhm.
PBS banquet. We talked about it a little bit. Now I'm a type 2 diabetic, so I'm like,
Okay.
am I going to crash? I'm like a little scared because when you dip, when your
Yeah.
sugars dip, I'm like, what do I do? But the bone broth thing has got me.
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out how to. I was talking. My general practitioner goes, "Look, you need to do this, this, and this, and I could take you off some medications." And
Mhm.
I don't like her ideas because she's like treating medications with medication, and
Yeah.
as a lot of doctors do. And I need to look for a more homeopathic path.
Mhm. I what I tell people, because I'm not a doctor, but I have a lot of friends that are, and
Mhm.
I've dedicated most of my life to health and fitness. You sometimes can make dietary changes and exercise changes that can either lower the dose of medication you're taking, or in many situations get you off the medication. Primarily it would be medications like blood pressure meds, cholestatins, cholesterol
Yeah.
lowering medications.
Yep.
I wouldn't tell somebody that's on a heart medication, hey, change your diet and work out and stop taking your heart medicine. But I would say to someone, if your blood pressure is borderline high and your doctor has you on a blood pressure medication,
Right.
but you haven't made a nutritional or a dietary change, you haven't changed your cardiovascular training, your strength and conditioning training, you can probably lower your blood pressure 10 to 15 points just by doing that. And if that's your threshold for medication, it would be better to eat better and train harder
Right.
to knock your blood pressure down 10 points than to take a blood pressure med. I think if your blood pressure is too high, then all the help in the world may require medication. But I think that most doctors would tell you your first line of defense before I put you on medication, let's get you on an exercise program. Let's make some
Right.
dietary changes.
Right.
Maybe cut out smoking a pack a day. Stop drinking a 6 pack a day. Um,
Yeah.
so I tell a lot of people, sometimes it's just common sense, Rich. If you've got high blood pressure and heart problems and you're smoking a pack a day and drinking a 6 pack every day after work, maybe that's not in your best interest anymore.
You're exactly right. I mean, uh, diabetes runs in my family. Heart issues run in my family. Cancer runs in my family.
Hmm.
Here I am at 66, and I'm probably in better shape than I've been in a long time.
Good for
Um,
you.
I've uh, I've cut out a lot of things that were in my
Mhm.
life that were bad. I'm more on a protein diet,
Mhm.
lot of
Good for you.
vegetables, a lot of meat, um, more cardio than I used to. I mean, like I
Mhm.
said, I was 275 at my worst. Now I'm 208.
Mhm.
But I'm pretty svelte for a 208. At 66, I could probably kick the shit out of most 28-year-olds. But
That's pretty good, buddy.
there's a lot of more. That's lot more work to do. So
Yep.
there's always work to do. I mean, it's a work in progress, if you will.
Well,
So
Gene Wenzel, Gene would be a perfect example. So Gene will be 82 this year, October
yep,
6th.
yep,
And from a cardiologist point of view, when Gene talks to his cardiologist, his cardiopulmonary system right now at 82 is healthier than it was at 62 because he's changed his diet. I've got him
absolutely,
on an exercise program that he does very consistently. He um he's lost almost 100 pounds.
yeah.
He takes great care of himself, and every time he goes in for a physical, his doctors just tell him, whatever you're doing, don't
Keep doing
stop,
it. Don't
because
stop.
your numbers didn't look this good 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's amazing because Gene and I sat and talked about it a little bit while I was drinking a beer, and he looked at me. He says, I've known you for 100 years. He says you're always smiling, you're always happy, you're always hugging people and stuff. I said I'm so happy just to be around you, man. And it's like
That's great.
he's like my long lost uncle, if you will. Even my parents would be like, "Who's this Wenzel guy?" And, I'm living in my mom's house. I'm 18 years old, living in the basement, and I'm like, with the book in my face, hunting rutting whitetails like it's my Bible. And my mom goes, "You're obsessed. There's something wrong. Maybe you need to see a psychiatrist." I'm like, "No, I think I need to go to Montana." And
Yeah.
I talked about moving to Montana for so many years. My ex-wife would just like, she was like, "You're out of your mind. We're not going anywhere." I'm like, "Well, that's not what killed the marriage. I think bow
Sure.
collecting and bow hunting is what killed the marriage."
Well,
And
sometimes obsessions of any kind can be detrimental to a marriage.
sure, especially at that age, because she was 7
Yeah,
years older than me.
sure.
I
No,
was crazy. I was just, oh, Montana, Montana. That's all I ever wanted.
but to go back to Gene and Barry, your comment, Uncle Gene. Most people that know Barry affectionately call him Uncle B, Uncle Barry. He just sent me an email this morning because he's so upset he didn't draw his Kansas tag, and Gene and I both did. And he always signs all of his emails off Barry Wenzel, aka UB, Uncle Barry. And people ask me a lot about Gene and Barry, and I've said it before, and you'll certainly agree with this. They're honestly, genuinely two of the most likable people you'll ever meet in your life. There's not a mean bone in their body. There's no malice in them. They love what they do. They love the people that do it. They love talking to anybody at all about anything to do outdoors. They are the proverbial good guys. They're just the good guys.
So let's talk about Barry for a moment. Okay, so I have this picture, which is
Oh, I love it. Yeah, Uncle Barry with a
yeah,
buck.
with a buck. Okay, which I don't know if I can get this thing in focus. At any rate, I got a lot of glare because back then it was glossies. So on the
Yep.
back, he sends this to me, and I'm going to read it.
Okay.
Rich, thanks for setting me up on this buck. I attribute a lot of my knowledge today to everything you've taught me on whitetails. Barry Wenzel. That's the humor.
That's gold, buddy. You better hold on to that. That's gold.
That's gold. Absolutely. Uh, I think Barry is the better comedian of the two, in my opinion.
There. Here's what I tell people. They're both comedians. Barry is a little bit more animated, I think, in his
Yeah.
personality.
Mhm.
Gene tends to be a little bit more analytical.
Yeah.
But I always say that Barry isn't Barry without Gene, and Gene isn't Gene without Barry. It's kind of like Laurel and Hardy. They're both very talented and very funny, but you put the two of them together,
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
just like plugging a light into a socket. It's just going to light up. They feed off of one another like like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. They just go together.
So Barry, I equate to Jerry Lewis, and Gene,
Okay.
I will equate to George Burns.
I think Gene would like that, especially because lately he's been smoking a lot of cigars at my fire pit.
Oh, cigars. Don't get me started on cigars. I'm a cigar aficionado. When
Oh,
I got
good.
married,
Well, then you need to learn how to.
when I got with my second wife, almost 40 years ago, at our wedding, everybody had cigars. I loaded them up. I mean, these cigars were Avos. Avo cigars are not
Hmm?
cheap.
No,
And
they're not.
I'm an Opus X guy. Arturo Fuente Opus
Those
X.
are my favorite. Opus is my favorite cigar.
Yeah, limited edition. When they are
Mhm.
available, I think you can only buy 5 at a time, and that's it. You're cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I enjoy a good scotch at the pool,
Hmm.
smoking an Avo or an Opus X, and that life is grand. So
You know what, buddy?
moderation,
That's not.
folks.
Those are not bad vices. That's not a bad vice to have.
No, moderation, folks. Now I was a 3 pack a day Marlboro Red smoker for years.
Wow.
Yeah, Jersey guy, had the pot cigarettes and the shirt and all that.
Sure.
I quit smoking cigarettes when I turned 50, which was what? 15 years
Wow.
ago.
That was 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. The doctor said, "Look, you have several bad vices. Quit smoking or quit drinking." I said, "Well, I'll quit smoking." And now I drink in moderation. So, yeah, it's a good health choice. Smoking was the
Well, I
worst.
think of the two, cigarettes is probably the one you should have given up because
Oh,
I
the
think
money.
that's the worst.
Yeah, the money I've saved
Yeah.
is insane. I can't believe it. Went to the gas station today just to get gas, and I looked at it. It's like $10 a pack for Marlboros. I was like,
Isn't
wow.
that crazy? I was never a smoker, so I don't understand that. The guy that works for me here on the ranch, he is. He's a Marlboro Red guy as well. And when he tells me what he pays per month for cigarettes, it's bigger than his car payment.
That could pay for your Social Security bill for
Yeah,
Medicare.
I told him, I said,
For Medicare.
yeah. I said, Tommy, quit smoking cigarettes and you can buy yourself a brand new truck because your cigarette payment's bigger than your car payment.
That- yeah, that's exactly right. And it's funny. I was going to retire this year, and they gave me a
Mhm.
raise and a bonus. I'm like, really?
They really liked you, Rich.
But before I came onto the podcast with you tonight, I was at the Social Security building telling them
Mhm.
I don't want Medicare. I'm still working.
Mhm.
They're paying for my medical. The guy looks at me and goes, "You're still working?" I was like, "Dude, they gave me a raise and a bonus." And he started laughing. He goes, "Well, God bless you." He says, "Yeah, well, you're good because I got a bill for like $1,000 for Medicare B." I was like, "I don't want to pay this."
Jeez.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I was like, "Yeah, it's all good." So, and at any rate, so we all know Gene and Barry are your mentors.
Very
Uh,
much so. In the whitetail world, especially.
they were huge
Yeah,
influence on
they
you.
were.
Can you tell me about, like what's the relationship like when you first get here in Montana? I mean, when you first moved to Montana, what are you doing?
I first moved to Montana. I was just a kid. So all I knew was I lived in Miller Hall on the University of Montana. That's
Okay.
where I lived. I had a pickup truck. That's what I drove. I didn't have any friends because I had a kid from Jersey, just moved to college, didn't know anybody. And embarrassingly, the first semester, I spent a lot more time hunting elk and deer than I did going to class.
Hmm.
So my life that first year in Montana, basically Donna Wenzel adopted me. She
Mhm.
would make me cookies. She would do my laundry. She made sure I never starved. Paul Schaefer, Gene Wenzel, and Barry Wenzel, and Paul Brunner made sure I always had a place to hunt, always had hunting partners. So the first year at the University of Montana, except for a few people that I met and became friends with that were students, I never spent any time there. In fact, Gene tells this story better than me. About 7 or 8 months into it, I met this really pretty girl one night at a bar downtown Missoula called Stocks, the Stockmans, and their logo used to be liquor up front, poker in the rear. And I met
Ah,
this beautiful girl, and I thought, all right, I'm gonna lay the Jersey charm down. I'm gonna get myself a cute Montana girlfriend. When I told her I went to the University of Montana, it turned out we actually had a class together. And she said, I've never seen you in that class. And I said, no, it's a Friday afternoon class. I don't ever go to that class. And she said, why is that? And I said, well, because I go bow hunting every weekend.
yeah.
I had to show her my student ID to convince her I actually was a student at the U,
Mhm.
because she thought I was just trying to flirt with a pretty college girl. So, in answer to your question, my first year in Missoula, Montana, and living in Montana, I mom and dad thought I was going to school and getting an education, an academic education. I was getting
Nope.
an education in how to hunt elk and deer
Yeah.
from Chase, Rosie, Gene, Barry, and
Yeah.
Brunner. So I was getting an education, just not the education my parents sent me to Montana for.
Yeah. I get it. I totally get it. I remember skipping class. I went to William Patterson University in Wayne, New
Oh, I
Jersey.
know that school.
Yeah. And my first wife at the time had a house down the road, so I lived with her. And I would leave at noon and just hunt evening hunts in Sussex County. I would get in my 66 Volkswagen, drive 45 minutes out down Route 80 to get to
Mhm.
Sussex County, get up in the tree stand, shoot animals, and bring them back on the back of a 66 Volkswagen. And of the
I always
one,
had a pickup truck. I threw my deer in the bed of a truck. So,
well, my 66 Volkswagen, I converted it to a semi dune buggy, which I had the
mhm.
stinger pipes coming out. So when you laid the deer on top of the rear bumper, it kind of inadvertently would shift and land on the pipes. So by the time I got it to the weigh station, the tenderloins were already cooked.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we would just eat it right there. Uh, so I understand. We're gonna switch gears again. I think I told you I go down rabbit holes.
Sure,
So
it's okay. We all do.
I've been following you and for years, fanboy
Thank
guys.
you.
You're very invested in the martial arts world. So
Mhm.
you have many titles. Can you
I do.
explain about these? How did this come to be?
It came to be when in 1995, I was living in Hermosa Beach, California. I was working out at Gold's Gym in Redondo Beach, California. And, for the sake of time, I became friends with Hoist Gracie, who was the first ever UFC champion.
I know that
Uh,
name. Yeah.
Great, a world class Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, just a genuinely nice man. And we worked out together in Gold's Gym. We became friends. And he was teaching Jiu Jitsu at Gold's Gym, and he had a school in Torrance, California. So I would go and train Jiu Jitsu. I just thought it was fun. I had no intention of ever one day becoming a black belt or ever competing all over the world. I just thought it was fun to go on weekends and you got to wrestle. And, either you got to beat people up or most of the time I got beat up. But it was fun. And I like bow hunting. I fell in love with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I fell in love with grappling. And the longer I did it, like as a lot of things, the better I got, I think more so through attrition, just by showing up every day. And eventually, after they're done beating you up, you start to get a little bit better. You get beat up less and less. And some
Right.
days you actually do pretty well. So I stuck with it. And then I moved to Brazil and I started competing in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu all over the world. I competed all throughout Brazil, through Europe, through the United States, up in Canada. I eventually got my black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and just started competing because I just loved the competition aspect. And I think through a lot of hard work and dedication and thank you God, some God given ability, I managed to do very well for myself. I've won the Pan American Championships in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, both in the gi and no gi, 7 times. I've won the American
Wow.
National Championships multiple times. I've won several world titles in the black belt division. I won the European Championship. So, I mean, I think more so through just a lot of hard work and having the blessing of some of the most incredible training partners in the world. I mean, when I hunted elk, I hunted with Rosie Rosen and Paul Schaefer and Paul Brunner. That was the best three elk hunters I've ever met. When I hunted deer, I hunted with Gene and Barry Wenzel. So as bad as I was eventually going to get good through association. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, uh, my training partners, teammates, and still good friends is a literal list of who's who of the best black belts in the world. So when you get beat up by those guys that good every day for years and years on end, eventually you become good enough that you start winning too. So I managed to win a bunch of titles, had a lot of fun, traveled the world, met some amazing people, and it's been a wonderful journey for me. Now I'm thinking about going back to competition, but I also love to coach. I've got some young fighters I coach that I work with, and I'm really beginning to enjoy watching their success
Right.
instead of my own. It's really fun to see people work really hard and then achieve their own success and know that in a small way you were a part of it. It's pretty rewarding.
Yes, it is. My wife has actually recently been very active in trying to get me into 4-H as a coach, an archery coach.
Oh, you
And
should. You should.
yeah, it's a process. Trust me. Um, it's almost like trying to get into the CIA. Literally, it's
I
very
would
strange.
imagine.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
weird. But because I had sent emails and whatnot. Hey, I worked with NASP, National Archery in the School program,
Mhm.
and all that. So 60 years of archery. I think I'm qualified,
Mhm.
but we'll see.
I think you're overqualified, and I think you should do it. And for any of your listeners out there, and I'm sure most of them are like this, as a Christian man and with my beliefs, the best thing we can do in the world is do for others.
Yeah.
And if you have a skill or a talent, if you have the ability to help somebody else, no matter what it is, do it.
Mm.
Because I look at where I've gotten to my life with the things I've achieved. I was able to get here and achieve them because somebody at some time or another, much better than me, took the time to help me. So if you have that ability as an archery coach to get involved in
Yeah.
4-H and give back, God, I mean, when I was a young guy learning how to bow hunt, I wish I would have known a guy like you. I would have saved a lot of time sitting in trees and having squirrels run up my leg.
Well, thank you. It's funny. I mean, I started this podcast as kind of a goof, but
Mhm.
now as look back on it, this, episode 171,
That's
do the
awesome.
math. It's every Tuesday at 7
Mhm.
p.m.
Good for you.
You got, it started off, you probably know how it started off, but I mean, I started it as a stress relief because my
Mhm.
wife was going through some medical issues. And I
Mm.
look back like, wow, 171 weeks.
That's
And
awesome. Good for you.
the whole idea and the whole premise of why I did it, besides the stress relief, now I really look back on it, is to pay it forward. I want
Yeah.
people, I don't, because I was at the Baltimore shoot this past weekend. I was there for 5 days. And I'm talking to young folks. They
Mhm.
don't know who Ben Pearson is. They don't know
Yeah.
who, some of them, a lot of them don't know who Fred Bear is. A lot of them don't
Yeah.
know who Gene and Barry Wenzel are. So I'm preserving history here.
Good for
Peter
you.
Peter
Well,
Iacavazzi, you're part of that history. Montana
well,
bow
anyway,
hunting
I could be a part of it. Thank
Montana
you.
bow hunting history, brother. You're part of
Well,
that.
I'm honored to be a part of it, but I'll say it time and time again. I was just a kid from Jersey that got to be so lucky to spend time with incredible, phenomenal men that took the time to say, "Hey, kid, we'll help you out."
But you had the cojones to just leave New Jersey. I mean, I
I
know
did.
people. My brother-in-law is stuck in New Jersey. He can't get out. And I was like, why?
Well, that's the curse of Jersey.
Well, yeah, property tax at the wazoo, and you're stuck. I asked
Yeah,
him the other day. I said, "What are you paying property? $30,000 a year."
yeah. Isn't that's a salary in Montana?
Right. You have to make 200 grand plus to survive in New Jersey.
Yeah,
That's
I know,
crazy.
buddy. I have friends from Jersey that come out to visit me in Montana, and they'll sit at my fire pit. They'll watch the sunset over the Como Peaks and the Bitterroot Range, and I'll show them 100 elk down in my meadow, 50, 60 deer. they'll hear an elk bugle, they'll look at me
Oh
and
my
they'll say,
God.
"Oh my God, I have to live here. Please let me." And I say, "Listen,
Yeah.
you can live here too." They let other guys from Jersey move to Montana. And
Yeah.
that always comes back. And then they give me their list of reasons why they can't. And I always
Yes.
say, well, listen, you know what? There's always reasons why you can. You have to make that choice and decision. And I understand for some people, maybe your kids are in school, maybe your career keeps you where you are, maybe your mortgage, and like with you and your
Right.
first marriage, your wife. Not everybody can just pick up and leave.
No,
But I
it's
tell people
nuts.
all the time, do it. If you know,
It can be
as you and I
done.
both know, yeah, listen,
Yeah.
we both know life is short, shorter for some than others. I've always been a big believer. If you have a dream, if you have something you really want to do, don't wait until the time is right to do it because the
Exactly.
time will never be right. Just do it.
Exactly. Yep.
What's the
I,
worst that can happen? You fail.
I tell my sons all the time and my daughter, it's like, yeah, yeah, leap of faith, leap of faith. And that's it. You have to have faith in God. You have to have faith in yourself, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yes, it will. Yes,
It
it will.
will. It will. That's crazy. So when you moved from New Jersey, did you have the Jersey accent? Because you
You
sound
know, I
extremely articulate. Very now, so many years later. I mean, intelligent and whatnot. When I first moved to Maryland, hey, how you doing? Forget about it. People were looking at me like I had three heads. I'm like, yeah, but
so
hey,
you were the proverbial Joey Bag of Donuts from
yeah,
Jersey.
exactly. Bergen County, man.
Well, growing up in Princeton, which is, very diversified because of the university, it's far enough away from Philly. You don't have a Philly accent. Far enough away from North Jersey and New York. You don't quite have that accent. And remember, I left when I was still relatively young. I'm 19 years old. So I didn't have a very strong accent to begin with.
Good.
But ironically, I was talking about this today with some people. Uh, if I'm sitting by the fire pit with a couple guys from Jersey and I have a couple beers in me, all of a sudden I sound like Joey Bag of Donuts.
Yeah.
So it must be inherently down there in my DNA. I'm just really good at keeping it down until I can't.
So my wife Lissa is from Wisconsin, and when you're in Wisconsin, everything's like, "Hey, yo, let's have a coho and a coke." That real heavy duty accent.
Uh,
And so when we go to Wisconsin, it's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. She turns into Wisconsin like in 3 minutes, and I love it.
yep.
I just love it. So I make fun of her. So what, like tonight before I got on the podcast, she goes, "Hey, what time is your podcast?" I go, "Oh, 7 p.m. Yeah." And she's like, "Really?" And she's giving me the hairy eyeball. I'll be out for dinner soon. Okay. With like those things. But that's funny. She loves that I do these podcasts. She's like excited for me. She says, I'm excited to do them. I mean, I've been waiting to do this podcast for God months. And talking to
Thank
Gene
you.
and
Thank you
Barry
so much.
at the PBS banquet, they were like, "When are you doing Peter?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's coming up. He's coming up. He's coming up on the 19th." Oh man. Okay, cool. Every day I got
I'm
emails from
flattered.
Gene. I get emails from Gene
Oh,
every day. He sent some crazy stuff. Did he ever send you the email of when he put the mirror on the tree for the bear?
yeah. Yeah, that's my ranch.
Oh,
I was there when he,
that's crazy, man.
yeah. So, Gene, for listeners that don't know, I have a little bit of ground here in Montana,
Mhm.
and it's in the archery only area. And I really only let Paul Brunner and Gene hunt. Although I've inherited Barry this year because he's now back in Montana, but Barry's always welcome.
Hey,
So Gene always comes.
real quick, did Barry finally move? Is he
He
there?
did. So yeah, Barry and Susan finally left where they were in Iowa,
Okay.
and they moved back. They're back up in the Flathead Valley in the Columbia Falls area, and they've been back for just a few weeks.
Okay.
And so they're home. They're spending time with family. Uh, Barry will be here hunting with me quite a bit this fall. So after over 25 years of living in Iowa, Barry Wenzel's come home.
Yeah, I hung out with Laurel at the
Mhm.
PBS banquet. We became fast friends,
She's
and
great. All the
she's
Wenzel kids are great.
hilarious. She's
Yeah.
hilarious. She has dad's humor,
Oh,
And
yes. Yeah.
oh yeah, and I introduced her to my wife, and they got along great. So it's like,
Uh,
yeah, it's like, oh my god, I'm out of my mind right now with this interview. I mean, yeah,
well, a tribute to Gene and Barry, all their kids. Barry's son Brad, his son Jason, his daughter Laurel. Gene's got Jenny, Amy, and Kenny.
yeah,
All of them are accomplished in their own careers. They're all wonderful parents. They're wonderful siblings. I've known them all
mhm.
since they were literally in diapers. Some of them, Gene and Barry. They didn't just kill a lot of big whitetails. They raised some beautiful kids, and
They
they've
did.
raised a beautiful family. Yeah, they have.
I saw Ken at the banquet inductions. I haven't seen him since he was 10.
Mhm.
I was like, oh my god, this is weird.
He's a man now.
Yeah. And then there was Dick Robertson, who I haven't seen. I saw him and
Mhm.
his wife, and
Mhm.
Yote, who I had not seen since Yote was 6.
Mhm.
And
Now
here he is,
Yote's a man stomping through Alaska.
dude. He's kicking butt.
Yeah, he's
He's
an
kicking.
impressive young man. He
Yeah,
really is. He's like the modern day Jeremiah Johnson up there.
absolutely. That was awesome. So we went to the martial arts. We went to stuff.
Mhm.
You're extremely fit. What's your fitness program? Because I've been watching you lately on your reels. You do a lot of
Yeah,
leg work, a lot of dips
I
and
do.
stuff like that.
Mhm.
Uh, work on your core.
I do.
All right.
So I better give the caveat disclaimer out there for people listening, and I'm going to give a shameless plug for somebody that doesn't need it. One of my best friends is a retired naval special warfare operator. His name is Travis Williams, and Travis is in the world of strength and conditioning. He is to fitness what Gene and Barry Wenzel are to whitetails. So Travis was for many many years he was the head strength and conditioning coach for multiple SEAL teams.
Okay.
He literally looks like Leonidas from the movie The 300.
Yeah.
And Travis and I are very close
There's no
friends. He's
six
I
pack. There's a 12 pack.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I count him among my closest friends.
Mhm.
So I have the luxury of every one of my strength and conditioning programs are handmade and designed by arguably maybe the best finest strength and conditioning coach in all of special operations military. So when people see my workouts or ask me questions, I wish I could say, yep, this is all me. But all it is Travis writes them out, and I just do as I'm told.
Yeah, dude. I watched a video yesterday, and you were doing dips with 70-pound dumbbells for your legs, for your quads.
Yeah,
Eh,
actually, that was for your listeners that train. Those were called Bulgarian split squats.
hmm.
And it's anybody who in listening who works out, which is probably a lot of your listeners. Everybody has a love hate with those. They're probably the most miserable exercise to do, but one of the finest leg exercises in the world. So if you do train and you don't do Bulgarian split squats, add them to your workout. If you hate them, please don't send me nasty emails.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of bodybuilding. My son's a bodybuilder, into fitness and
Okay.
whatnot. And I got into it years and I'm going back decades ago. So
Mhm.
my hate relationship is flies.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's
Chest
got
work.
something.
Oh, I hated
Mhm.
them because there's always because you got to build the upper bottom of your pecs, the top,
Mhm.
so you get that bulge, if you will.
Yep.
Lat pulled out. I love my lats. I'm great with the lats. That's my thing. Legs,
Mhm.
not my thing so much. Well, I don't even work out anymore. What the hell am I talking about? But I know this. So because I know this, I should do this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I post a lot of fitness stuff and on my
Yeah.
reels on social media, and I do it primarily to help to inspire my friends and people that follow me and people that are into fitness. Because I always want them to know, hey, look, I'm over 50, and I'm out here doing Bulgarian split squats with 70 pounds bottoming my knee and coming all the way to the top. I'm not doing it so that you can be impressed by me. I'm
No.
doing it so that you can understand, hey, if this guy can do it, then why can't I at least try? And
Exactly.
I get so many great DMs on social media from people that I don't know, but they follow me and thanking me for showing how to do it, thanking me for inspiring them, asking, "Hey, what do you think of this, or what do you think of that
Right.
exercise or diet?" And I love being able to say, this is what I do. Why don't you give this a try? And then later, months later, they'll send me like a before and after picture. And look how big my legs are. My bench press is now finally
Yeah.
over 225. So it's fun to be able to inspire people, to help people, and then to see their results. I think I get just as excited for them as they get for themselves.
So let's talk about supplements.
Sure.
I take multivitamins. I take vitamin C. I used to
Hmm.
get bloody noses a lot. Vitamin C corrected that. B12
Hmm.
complex. Take What's the hell is this stuff I'm taking? The Cunol.
Uh-huh.
As
QAnon
a
Q10.
type 2 diabetic, it helps.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
but sometimes I get stomach problems from these things
Hmm.
because the
Hmm.
body can't process them.
Yep. A
Now
lot
they
of.
go as
Yep.
pills. I couldn't process,
Mhm.
so I started getting them as gummies, which helped.
Mhm.
What are your
You know,
thoughts?
this is what I would tell people. There are certain supplements that absolutely everyone should take.
Hmm.
When people ask me what I take, I tell them and I say, but the ones that everyone should take is creatine.
Hmm.
Everyone listening, whether you're 8 years old or 88 years old, you should be taking creatine. The literature and the studies on creatine is vast, and it is so good for you. Vitamin C, especially during cold and flu season, which really is all year long. If you spend a lot of time indoors, you're not outside in the sun a lot, or in the winter months, vitamin D, it helps with depression. And so those are things I definitely take. And then there's things I take that help me in my recovery and training for workout. I'm a big believer in magnesium glycinate, which helps
Wow.
a lot with sleep and recovery. But with regards to stomach problems, it's a lot of people will come back and say, "Hey, I took my vitamins this morning and I had a stomach ache." And then I'll say, "Did you have anything in your stomach?" And they said, "Well, no." So sometimes just
Right.
putting food in your stomach. You should never. They say you shouldn't take vitamins on an empty
Right.
stomach unless your doctor tells you to. And a lot of times people wake up in the morning, and here's something that I've talked to Gene about, and he's really good with it. And anybody out there that has some basic nutritional common sense will understand this. The most important thing to do the first thing in the morning is to drink water, is to hydrate. And most people, including me sometimes, we're guilty of waking up and first thing we have is a cup of coffee. So now you've put an acidic drink into an environment that has nothing to help dilute it, and you've not properly hydrated. So then people say, "Man, I get heartburn or a stomach ache in the morning." And I say, "What do you have first thing in the morning?" "Well,
Right.
I just have 2 cups of coffee." And I say, "Well, what about water?" "Well, I drink water later on."
Mm.
So if I could offer any nutritional advice, and I'm not a nutritionist, it would be the first thing in the morning when you wake up, you should drink between 16 and 20 ounces of water right away before you drink your coffee, before you eat anything.
Yep.
And a lot of people, a lot of doctors and nutritionists will tell you put a little pinch of Celtic salt or sea salt into the water because it'll help your cells retain that hydration better.
Interesting.
I do that every day. Just a little pinch, just a little shake of Celtic sea salt or Celtic salt in a. I have like a 32-ounce jug of water, and I'll drink that while I'm making my coffee, and
Hmm.
then I'll have my coffee. And in my coffee, I drink coffee with MCT oil and with collagen powder, and that's how I like my coffee. I don't put sugars and all the fancy creamers in my coffee because, well, I don't like it, but also it's not good for you. And then I just try to eat really clean and healthy. So with regards to supplements, your first line of defense should be a clean, healthy, nutritional diet. If you're not getting that from your diet, you can supplement it with supplements, but you still want to try to get the bulk of your nutrients from what you eat, not from the pills you take.
Yeah, I mean, I've creatine. We have a ton of it here. My wife takes it
Good for
every
you.
day. She swims
Good.
every day. I've taken it before, and I've noticed positive results.
Hmm.
Uh, she's really more into it than I am. She
Hmm.
drinks her water. She drinks water constantly. She does laps
Hmm.
in the pool. She's had 3 brain operations. So
Wow.
yeah, so she is all about getting getting right on right now,
Good for
and
her. Good for
she's
her.
she's my hero. Uh, and people know this. But yeah, she's doing the creatine, and she's
Good for
taking her
her.
supplements, and yeah, she's doing right. She's doing it right.
Good. I'm
But
glad to hear that. Yeah, that's great.
so
That's great. That
yeah, so let's talk about old farts.
sure. Be careful because we might be in that group.
Well, we are, but you're more fit than I am. So for us old people that are aging, old bow
Mhm.
hunters that are aging,
Mhm.
what do you recommend to stay fit or to stay
You know,
or at the ready?
to stay at the ready or to stay fit. First and foremost, I tell everybody you should be doing some sort of physical exercise. And studies now show that as we age, resistance training, strength and conditioning, lifting weights is probably more important as you get older than when you're younger.
Okay.
We now know that as you get older, you lose bone density. Resistance training helps to create bone density. As you get older, you lose muscle mass. We know that muscle mass increases your metabolism or your metabolic rate. So I think any doctor out there, any nutritionist, anybody who has ever spent 15 minutes on Google would tell you that there's never a bad age to lift weights, to eat healthy, and to exercise. Literally never a bad age. And there's also never a time that's too late. If you're 75 years old and your excuse is, well, I've never exercised a day in my life, I'm not going to start now. For a 75-year-old who's never exercised, maybe getting up and going for a 15-minute walk around the block, that's exercise.
Right.
So I often say it doesn't, you might have heard this before. It's very common in the fitness industry. Either move it or lose it. Motion is lotion.
Yeah. You
Move,
got that right.
stay active.
You got that
Gene
right.
Wenzel's a perfect example. Gene is going to be 82. He takes his time, but he still walks down to my woods, walks to his ladder stand, climbs in his ladder stand, climbs out, still shoots a hunting weight bow, and he still lifts weights and he's doing all these things. And like I said earlier, at 82, he's more physically fit than he was at 62. And he's never did this until about 3 years ago when I got him on a training program. And all I did was give him some kettlebells, some weights, some therabands, and some basic knowledge. He's done all the rest himself. I wish I could take more credit, but I really can't. Gene just made the decision to do it, and he does it.
Let me ask you this, and this is a real honest question. Do you think
Okay.
Barry's heart condition and heart episodes had anything to do with influencing Gene?
I would, because they're twins, because they are so close. Um, of course, it has. I mean, look, if somebody in our family has a heart attack, what's the first thing we think about? Are we going to be next?
Right.
And Gene would tell you, Gene's already had open heart surgery once before. So not just Barry has had some heart issues, Gene as well. And I think that for Gene, it was a real wake up call, as it is for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think that when Gene had that scare, that health scare, he realized, you know what, I'm not ready to go. I've got a life I still want to live. So Gene made the decision, I'm going to make better choices. I'm going to train. I'm going to be smarter. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure this doesn't happen again. But I'm sure, because Barry's gone down a similar road, Gene's at that age where he's now lost friends to illnesses and heart disease and things like that. So I think
Sure.
all of those things are influencing factors in lifestyle changes that we all ultimately have to make or not make.
So let's relax things a little bit.
Sure.
What's your favorite game animal to hunt and why?
Oh boy, I without a doubt, for me, elk. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Gene and Barry, but it would be elk. Growing up a kid in Jersey, like you, I had access to whitetails. Not the whitetails I have now, but still whitetails. And I absolutely love whitetails. But for anybody out there who's ever hunted elk, who's ever been in the high country as the sun is coming up and you hear a big bull bugle through the timber, it's it's like no other sound in the world. And when you're down there in the timber and an elk's coming in and you hear them thrashing through the timber and ripping up
Yeah.
saplings, and you can smell them and you can hear them. For me, there is nothing like hunting elk with the bow and arrow. I absolutely, it's a drug. I'm addicted. I like everybody else out there. Of course, I dream about November, as Gene says, chasing November. But in reality, if God only gave me 1 month, I would choose September and elk every single year.
That's awesome. So, any out of state hunts? Have you been out of the country?
I have not hunted Africa yet, although I have a Cape Buffalo hunt planned for the future. I've hunted quite a bit up in Canada, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Alberta. Next year, I'll be up in Alberta with my friend Mike Ukranitz hunting black bears. I'm really excited about that. I'm looking at a mountain goat hunt, probably up in BC next year. This year, I just found out today I drew my non-resident Kansas archery tag, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, wow.
I have a great lease through a very good friend in Missouri, so I'll be hunting whitetails in Missouri. Here in Montana, I didn't draw any of my favorite tags yet, but I do have my elk tags, my deer tags, my bear tags, and I'll spend a lot of time here in Montana. I've got a good friend, a taxidermist named Tony Grillo. He's the taxidermist that mounted Gene's buck Woody. He's got some beautiful property in Indiana, and he has invited me out to hunt whitetails in Indiana.
Oh, my
So
God. Yeah.
if I can make that work, I will. And Paul Brunner called me yesterday and said, "Hey, did you get your antelope tag this year?" And I said, "Yep." He said, "Great, you're coming with me. I've got a beautiful private ranch over in eastern Montana. It's you and me for the week." So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, man, I'm excited. That's great. So, of your amazing hunts, what is your favorite and that you can share? Favorite
You
story?
know, I've got a lot of them. Probably the one that seems to resonate with people the most and is probably the most personal one for me would be the Dall sheep I killed in the Northwest Territories with Greg Williams of Nahanni Butte Outfitters in 1994, and that particular hunt for me, the emotions run as deep as a river. Everything about that hunt was not about killing a Dall sheep. It was about trying to find Schaefer. I lost Shafe. We lost Shafe. And in one of our final hunts that we had planned to do together, Paul Schaefer and I were going to go spend a month in the territories. He was going to film and guide, and I was going to try to kill a big doll ram with a Schaefer bow. And unfortunately, Paul passed away before we were able to fulfill that dream. So I went up there. Um, Paul passed away in 92
Hmm.
and 92, yeah, 90, 93 or 92. So the following 2 years later, I went up and I spent quite a bit of time in the Northwest Territories in the Honey Butte. And that entire hunt for me, it was not about killing a Dall sheep. It was about trying to find my friend. It was about trying to make peace with losing someone I loved so much. It was about trying to be out there and trying to feel him still, to know he was with me, to be up in that high country, to be somewhere that he loved so much and wanted so much to share with me. So, in many ways, that hunt was how I learned to let go of Paul. It was how I learned to say goodbye to somebody that was just such an incredible influence and impact on my life. And being up there in that country and seeing the grizzlies and the doll rams, and then I wish I could tell you being a very good sheep hunter, but I was a very lucky sheep hunter. I ended up killing one of the largest Doll rams ever killed with a bow and arrow. And I believe at the time, the largest ever killed with traditional equipment. And gosh, I wish I could tell you it was because I'm the best sheep hunter in the world. It had nothing to do with talent and entirely to do with luck. And I believe then, as I believe now, that was a gift from Paul Schaefer to me. That was the
So
hunt that will always carry my heart.
I can tell this is emotional for you.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
what did that ram score?
So that ram, Green scored 163 and 7/8, and he netted a little bit over 161. He qualified for Pope and Young and honorable mention in Boone and Crockett. And what made that ram so unique was he was, the mythical 40-inch ram.
Yeah.
He was 41 inches on his lamb tip and 40 on his broom tip. And for people that know much about Dall sheep or sheep, for a ram in the Northwest Territories, that's a mega giant. That's like an Alaska ram, because
Yeah.
most of the biggest Dall rams
36,
come from
38.
Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he just score wise, he's very impressive. But what makes him so impressive is he's a 41-inch full curl ram. And when people see him, he's just so beautiful to look at. They're just blown away by him. And I look at him every morning when I have coffee, and I'm still blown away by him.
Have you hunted stone sheep? That's my
I
favorite
I
ram.
That's next on my to-do list or my wish list. I've got some friends that have put me in touch with some great guides for stone sheep. The price tag now is so ridiculous, but stones are on my bucket list. And unless I draw a bighorn tag in Montana, like everyone else, probably the next sheep I hunt will be a stone.
Yeah, I heard it's become ridiculous. Uh, it
Yeah,
is
you'd
what it
have
is.
to mortgage your house.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. So have at it, guys. Have fun. So for a young guy, I'm going to switch gears here. For
Mhm.
an up and coming bow hunter, what's a piece of advice that you would give them to grow in this sport?
You know, we talked about this the other night at the fire pit, Gene and I. My advice would be don't watch the outdoor channel. Don't watch the quote unquote celebrities on YouTube that are
Thank
out
you.
there
Yeah.
endorsing everything from Rangers to Mountain Dew. Don't watch them, because they're not selling hunting. They're
Mhm.
selling their brand, they're selling themselves. I would tell any hunter, but especially a young hunter, go outside, have fun. Make memories. Whether you kill a spike buck or a doe, or whether you get lucky like me and kill something really big, doesn't matter. The score, the
Oh wow. I got a dead spot here. Something happened. Oh no. I don't need this. Oh, there you are. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Hold on.
how's that?
Yeah, yeah, beautiful.
Back. All right, we're good to go. So, without sounding too romantic and certainly getting off my soapbox, don't pay attention to celebrity hunters, because they're not important. They're only important to themselves. Go hunt. Find somebody that loves the outdoors and fall in love with the outdoors. Learn, understand the wind, understand thermals. Take a moment, enjoy a sunrise, enjoy a sunset. If you want to kill a spike buck, then go ahead and kill it. Because he won't make Pope and Young, or because he's not going to get you an endorsement from some camo company, is irrelevant. Go hunt, have some fun. Some of the greatest hunts I've ever had one of the greatest hunts I ever had with my friend Rosie Roseland. We
Oh
shot two
man.
does. Yeah, we shot two does, but we froze our butts off dressing out one of the does. Rosie almost cut my finger completely off. We both had hypothermia. We fought over the last cup of hot coffee in the truck and the last Hershey bar. But when I think about all the great hunts I've had with Rosie, killing two does on a freezing cold night in Montana is still one of my greatest memories. And nobody will remember those does except me and Rosie.
Rosie's one of my heroes. I would love to get him on the podcast. If you could send me his contact information, I really would appreciate it.
I will. I'll reach out to him, and I
Yep,
will. And I would say to anybody listening, if you don't know who Rosie Roslin is, you need to know.
that's the
Um,
point. That's the point.
Rosie Roslin is, without a doubt, one of, if not the best all around hunter in the world. Maybe the
Yep.
Wenzels are better at whitetails. Maybe Paul Schaefer killed more rams. Maybe Paul Brunner has killed more bigger bulls. But when it comes to just being a hunter,
He's the man.
yep. If I always tell people, if Rosie Roslin has a tag in his pocket, he's going to fill it.
I've
He's
been
going to fill
read
it.
I've been reading about Rosie for God 40 years. So I know I'm very well aware of Rosie. I just need to
Yeah.
get him on here.
Yeah, your listeners would love him. He's done a few podcasts. His
I know.
podcasts are always great. Rosie is what you see is what you get. He's just he's a solid, salt of the earth, good, decent man. But when it comes to hunting, Rosie Roslin is a Navy SEAL of bow hunting. If he's got the tag, you don't want to be that animal because
Yeah.
eventually he's going to win.
So Peter, what's in store for you for next year, the rest of this year and next year? What's going on?
So like I said, for this year here in Montana, our season will begin. Our bear season is going on now. I don't have the time to spring bear hunt. I'm too busy. I don't hunt turkeys. So anybody out there who's a turkey hunter, I apologize, but don't ever ask me about turkeys because I'm the world's worst turkey hunter. Gene jokingly said to me a few years ago, he said, "You'll kill a Boone and Crockett whitetail before you'll kill a turkey," and I did. So it's living proof that if I have a turkey tag in my pocket, every turkey in the woods is safe.
I'm gonna
So
have to come
aside
out
from
there.
that,
I'm gonna have to come out there and get you turkey hunting. That's my
I
thing.
wish somebody would teach me because
Yeah.
every time I go with my friends, they tell me, "Now listen, you're going to sit in the blind. The decoys are out there. I'm going to call in a turkey. It's going to be the greatest hunt of
Yeah.
your life." And
Yeah.
5 hours later, I'm still sitting in the blind
Yep.
and I'm still waiting for a turkey.
Turkey hunting is like coaxing the 23-year-old guy trying to coax the 50-year-old woman to come out on a date. That's turkey hunting, and I can
Well,
teach
then
you.
that every bad analogy for turkey hunting, probably you could reference me.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
taking that out of the equation, this year I will hunt in Montana. As of right now, I have a tag for antelope, whitetail deer, mule deer, bull elk, cow elk, and a black bear tag. So
excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
I'll hunt
Excellent.
those. I've got a whitetail tag for Kansas. I've got a whitetail tag for Missouri. I've got a whitetail tag for Indiana. I'll probably
Sweet.
buy an elk tag for Idaho because Idaho is only 50 miles away from where I am. I'll probably hunt in Ohio if Paul Brunner can get me on his lease.
Mhm.
So those will be my hunts for this year. Next year will likely be the same, except I know that I'm going to get to spend a week in Alberta with Mike Ukrainitz hunting black bears, and I'm really excited about that because I've killed some good Montana bears, but a Montana bear is nothing like a big fat Alberta bear. So,
Well, I'm going to be like you as a young man. Expect me on your doorstep.
well, you're always welcome. I get a lot of DMs, and I always tell people if you're ever in Montana, there's always room at my fire pit. There's always a glass of bourbon. There's always a cigar. There's always a seat for a good friend.
Awesome. So, final question. If you were to
Sure.
take yourself back in time, where would it be and why?
That's almost too easy. That's an easy. You just threw me a layup. Um, if I were to take myself back in time, buddy, it would be the fall of 1985. A freshman kid at the University of Montana, fresh off the plane from New Jersey, shooting an 80-pound Schaefer bow, hunting Buffalo Trail Ranch with Gene Wenzel, Barry Wenzel, Paul Brunner, Paul Schaefer, and Rosie Roslin. What I wouldn't give to have those moments in that time back in my life. And there's never a day where I don't thank God for the memories of those times in my life, because for a young man coming out of Jersey and being able to be around those caliber of men
Amazing.
and
Yep.
do the things that we did. And, it was, at the risk of sounding overly romantic, it was a dream come true. It was like I had won the life lottery for a kid from Jersey with a
Yep.
bow.
Absolutely. And, dude, I mean, you and I kind of come from the same cloth, but we're like 6 years apart. But it's like, why did we not meet sooner? That's what
you know, it's
messes my head up.
I wish we would have, but that better late than never. What a pleasure to meet somebody that I have so much in common with, that shares the same loves and desires as me. That's one of the things I love about our community, the not just the traditional archery community, but the bow hunting community. When you really sit down and talk to guys, we find out how much more we really have in common.
Oh yeah.
How much we love, how much we love God, how much we love the great outdoors, how much we love our friends, how much we love being out there, how much we love hunting. And what I've learned lately is how much we love the success of our friends. I
Yes.
get just as excited when I get a call from a buddy that he's killed the buck of a lifetime. I think I get more joy from that. And you find out that we're all like that, buddy. We all want to kill the biggest buck in the woods unless we could let our friend kill it. Then we want him to get
I
it.
just want to get out there. I mean, I don't
Yep.
really care about killing anything. It's anticlimactic.
Yeah.
I just like being in the woods, hanging out with my buddies, and just the camaraderie of everything. Hey, I got a question. Is there a
Sure.
Mrs. Iacavazzi?
There was and wasn't, and I don't want to change the mood of the podcast, but I am not married. I had a wonderful, wonderful woman in my life. Her name was Charlie, and we were together for 10 years. She was my fiance, and I guess nowadays they call it a partner, a life partner. She adored Gene and Barry and Paul Brunner, and they adored her. Sadly, she passed away a few months
Oh
ago
shit.
from complications of breast cancer. And not to bring the podcast down, I would
No.
tell you this for anyone out there listening. I was the luckiest man in the world. I got a chance to be loved by a much better person than me, an incredible woman that all my friends loved. I'm pretty sure my family loved her more than they loved me. And if I live to be
Wow.
100 years old, there will never be a day in my life where I will not love her more every single day.
And I didn't mean to bring that up. It's just,
Oh, it's okay. No, it's okay. It's quite
it's
all right. It's
it's
quite all
one of
right.
those things where oh wow, good looking guy, you're a model and all that stuff. So I had to ask, So anyway,
Well, you know what? On that end of the spectrum, she was better looking than me. She was smarter than me,
oh, I guess
kinder than
so.
me, better than me. So I've hit the lottery in life more than once. And having her in my life for over 10 years, that was a lottery win for me, buddy. I will never go a day without thanking God for that woman. What a
God bless
blessing
you.
she was.
God
Thank
bless
you.
you. God bless you both.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
Peter,
you.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for even coming on to the
Oh,
Drop
it's my
Time
pleasure.
Traditions podcast. I hope we can stay in touch.
I would love
And
that.
yeah, that would be great. Folks, subscribe, like, and share, please. That's really the demise. If you don't, it's the demise of this. I've been doing this for
Yeah.
3 years. So I want to also say something for people that have mental illness. I'm a big proponent of see something, say something, take care of each other, love each other, and that's it. That's all I got, man.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that because
Uh,
for me, working with the military, working with first responders, working with veterans, I've lost some people I really love, both
mhm.
in service of this country and also because of mental illness, PTSD, and taking their own life. And I could not have said that better. Our responsibility in this world is to take care of each other, to love one
Yes,
another. If
yes.
we're ever given the opportunity to help someone who's struggling, take that opportunity because that's a gift.
My late father did Korea and 3 tours of Vietnam. He had some
Wow.
issues. He had some issues. My wife, who had 3 brain operations, has PTSD. So, folks, this is a
Can imagine.
serious thing.
Yeah, it is.
Recognize it and accept it, and take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, I'm serious.
That's a great message, Rich. What a wonderful message to share.
Yeah, appreciate it, Peter. We will talk soon, brother.
Thank you so much. God bless. What a pleasure to meet you, to have a chance to talk to you, and to have a chance to share some stories about some incredible men that have certainly made my life better.
Likewise. So when you talk to Gene tomorrow,
Yep, I will.
which I will, give him a kiss for me.
I'll give him a big hug and a kiss, and I'll give Uncle
Oh,
Barry one too.
absolutely. All right, brother. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Bye bye.
Good night, folks.